On Sunday, 16th January 1966, the military staged a coup in Nigeria. Our father, Lieutenant Colonel Victor Adebukonla Banjo, went to work on Monday, 17th January 1966 and never returned home. Lieutenant Colonel George Kurubu and Major P.A. Awuna arrested him. We have read from various books that he was killed sometime in the second half of September 1967 on the order of his friend and colleague, Lieutenant Colonel Emeka Ojukwu. We do not have any official communication about him up until now. Our father wrote to our mother from his prison cell in Ikotikpene and Enugu in the southeastern part of Nigeria between January 1966 and July 1967. We honor our father's memory by reading some of the letters he wrote to his wife and to others during the period of his incarceration, published in a book titled A Gift of Sequins, Letters to My Wife. This letter was written on the 1st of June 1966 from my father to my mother from the federal prisons. My darling Tai, thanks very much for your letter. Curiously, it came quite fast this time, which was just as well, as I was getting quite worried about your trip to Enugu from here in view of the reported severe storm at Enugu on that day. However, I'm very glad to note that you arrived quite safely and even had a nice flight back. I have also received your 4 other letters which you wrote before you left Lagos. I am glad to see the letter which you wrote to the Supreme Council. I hope it shifts them. I am beginning to have doubts about their honesty myself. After waiting patiently all these days to see justice done to me, believing in their good faith and honesty of purpose, I do not think I can be excused of being unreasonable if I begin to have doubts. I have written letters to all the military members of the Supreme Council, except one, who was one of the guerrillas who arrested me, and who I cannot bring myself to regard anymore, either as an officer or a gentleman. See copy of the letter. From Lieutenant Colonel V.A. Banjo, BSc, Director of Electrical and Mechanical Engineering, Nigerian Army. To Major General J.T.U. Aguiyi-Ironsi, MVO, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Head of the National Military Government. Written from Federal Prisons, Ikotikpene, 1st June 1966. My dear General, thank you for your letter of the 14th February. This will be my last letter to you while I remain in detention. I wrote to you from Kirikiri Prison on the 21st and 31st January 1966, and your letter to me of the 14th February in reply referred to my petition being under consideration. 2. I am not aware of having written a petition to you. I wrote to you as my general, my leader, and my fellow officer in arms, as one from whom I should expect justice, fairness, and loyalty, in the like measure as any of my fellow officers may expect to receive it from you. In the like measure as I have had the honor to give you, my colleagues and my soldiers, during my years of service, and in the like measure as is obligatory between gentlemen officers of a responsible army, to maintain the highest traditions of our profession. I informed you that a grievous crime had been committed against my person and my liberty at a time of crisis in our country, when I was busy giving you my most loyal service. I pointed out certain facts to you, which I felt you ought to have known about. Essentially, these were: A, that on the morning of Monday, 17th January 1966, I was arrested by Lieutenant Colonel J.T.U and Major P.A. Awuna in the anteroom of the IGP's office for no ostensible reason while I was waiting to see you. B, that during the period of my close arrest, I had been shamefully mishandled by soldiers in the presence of my arresters at Federal Guard, that I had subsequently been confined to the guard room of 2nd Battalion, Nigerian Army, Ikeja, in the ward room of the Naval Base, Apapa, and in the defaulter's cell on board Her Majesty's Service Nigeria in turn. I need hardly point out that this act was in itself illegal and a flagrant disregard of Army regulations covering the manner of close arrest of an officer of my rank. C, that I had since been detained at federal prisons at Kirikiri and lately at Aba and at Ikotikpene for no reason whatever. D, that some 2 weeks after my arrest, I was informed by Major C. Ude at Kirikiri prisons that a signal had been sent out to all units that I had been arrested for attempting the life of the Supreme Commander, which signal, if existent, must by its gross falsehood constitute a serious offense in law against its originator. E, that subsequent to my arrest, one of my officers, Major E.O. Aganya, commanding base workshop Yaba, was invited to your headquarters and arrested on 18th January 1966 for no reason at all. I believe he is still in detention. F, that the driver of my Land Rover and the 5 soldiers who were my personal guard on the morning of Monday, 17th January 1966, were also arrested, brutally beaten at Federal Guard for some days, and subsequently detained at Kirikiri prisons. I believe they are still in detention, and all this for no apparent reason whatever. G, that prior to my arrest, I had spent a considerable time with you in the attempt to persuade you that in order to save Nigeria from the awful event of a civil war, the army should take over government under yourself. H, that during this period, I had by word and deed rallied support for yourself and a military takeover of government among a large number of officers all over Nigeria. I, that I was present at the meeting of senior officers of the army with yourself at noon on Sunday, 16th January, at which I spoke first and spoke for a military government under yourself. Number 3, in the face of these facts, and as a lieutenant colonel under your command, it was my place to expect certain actions from you, such as A, an immediate investigation of the facts of my arrest and that of my officer and soldiers. B, the immediate release of myself, my officer, and my soldiers as soon as the facts are proved to have been false. C, the immediate arrest of the officers responsible for my arrest and their subsequent trial on charges of false arrest of an officer and bearing false witness, false evidence against a fellow officer. 4, no one holds rank and authority in any army by divine right. The relationships of rank and authority in armies are based on law and a definite set of rules and regulations which predetermine the rights and responsibilities at each rank. It is also based on ageless traditions of honor, integrity, and loyalty, which is expected in reciprocal forms from all ranks. There is no provision either in an organized state or in an organized army for a relaxation of these principles, for on it rests your command, your stability, and your safety, as otherwise there is little to prevent 2 officers backed with weapons from arresting any of your officers tomorrow, even your military governors or even yourself. In this issue, my general, I beg to submit that you can only have one clear duty: to protect the law, the traditions of the army, and the rights of every soldier and officer who has entrusted his life into your hands. Five, it is now 4.5 months since I was so treacherously arrested, and since then you have continued to see it fit and just to keep me detained. If I, my family, and my friends have been loath to raise issues on this matter in public, it has not been out of fear or out of lack of adequate belief in my innocence. It has been out of consideration for you and a disinclination to embarrass you at this time. It has been out of a deep sense of responsibility to the issues now facing the country and a desire not to aggravate it. It has been out of faith and belief in the loyalty of yourself and those of my colleagues who remain honest to the traditions of our army. So far, I have counseled patience, even in the face of the worldwide publicity given to my supposed attempt and death, which in itself was an act of treachery, which must have emanated from someone in your office. For this, however, the world press and radio owes me an accounting, for which I will proceed to exact payment as soon as I am free to do so, out of a firm conviction of my innocence and faith that you would leave no stone unturned to ensure that justice is done. I have been disposed to wait silently in detention, patient for long enough to seem reasonable and feared to you by the world. If I continue to remain in prison, the shame is not mine, But irrespective of what happens to me, by virtue of the inevitability of truth, the world will someday ask you to clear yourself of any involvement in this act of treachery. 6. I am grateful for the arrangements you have made to enable my wife to visit me here on the 14th of May, 1966. She informs me that she visited you on the 5th of May, 1966 to inquire about my crime, and that you informed her that you knew nothing about my arrest until after it had been carried out. But then, you have found it necessary to keep me in detention to protect my life in view of the rumors.
The federal military government in Nigeria has taken over the administration of the country. Functions of the federal military government will be exercised by the Supreme Military Council, and the details of which will be announced later. Permanent secretaries in charge of federal ministries will continue in their office, carrying out the normal functions of government, and they shall be directly responsible to the federal military government when constituted.
Will there be press censorship during this regime?
I do not think that I should start off with press censorship. But I may impose censorship if it became necessary.
J.T.U of the Daily Mail in London, will there be any change in the external policy of your government?
No.
Of London. May I ask the General whether he regards his administration as a permanent or a caretaker administration?
My main concern is to restore law and order as soon as possible.
I believe you. But then, as I pointed out before, the world conscience is less trusting. It will ask you to vindicate yourself. It will want to know how it is possible that one of your most senior officers, who was spending his time and energy loyally assisting you to restore order to the country, was treacherously arrested within 20 feet of you and falsely accused of trying to take your life. And all this was done without your knowledge or approval. It will want to know how it happened that the main perpetrators of this crime were suddenly elevated after my arrest. The one, Lieutenant Colonel J.T.U, appointed commander of the Air Force and a Supreme Counselor, and the other, Major P.A. Aguiyi, promoted substantive Lieutenant Colonel. The skeptic might unkindly be disposed to feel that they were being recompensed for some good deed. The world will want to know what has been done and what is being done to see that justice is done, irrespective of what happens to me. 7. My wife further tells me that some of my colleagues have been kind enough to call to congratulate her on the fact that my name having been cleared. I am not aware that my name was in need of being cleared. However, I am grateful for the efforts spared to clear it of whatever it is that needs clearing. And I hope the privilege has been extended to all the senior army officers who had the honor of assisting you to preserve the country during the crisis. 8. I am glad to note that you and my colleagues are succeeding in restoring the nation onto an even keel in spite of the great difficulties. I am proud of your efforts and of belonging to the service that is accepting so much responsibility. I'm also proud to have contributed some small part to starting off the national military government. My greatest regret, amongst others, at this moment is that I am denied the opportunity of serving my country during one of its moments of great need in my lifetime. As a result of the efforts of a few unworthy officers, I hope that success continues to attend your efforts. History abounds of numerous examples of military coups, some of which have brought in their train hardship, loss of freedom, injustices, assassinations, bloodshed, and chaos as a result of the rapacity, jealousy, and unbridled ambition of a few army officers. Others have brought stability, prosperity, justice, and real freedoms as a result of the wisdom, dedication, honesty, and discipline of its army officers. It is an inevitable law of nature that the former pattern always only succeeds in destroying itself eventually. After so many years of callous betrayal by its leaders, I believe that Nigeria deserves stability for a change. Yours very sincerely, Lieutenant Colonel V.A. Banjo. Copy 2, Brigadier B.A.O. Ogundikpe, Officer of the Supreme Commander, State House, Lagos. Lieutenant Colonel D.A. Ejo, Government House, Benin. Lieutenant Colonel F.A. Fajuyi, Government House, Ibadan. Lieutenant Colonel C.O. Odumegu Ojuku, Government House, Enugu. Lieutenant Colonel Hassan Katsina, Government House, Kaduna. Headquarters, EME, Army Headquarters, Lagos. Lieutenant Colonel Y. Gowon, Chief of Staff, Army Headquarters, Lagos. Mrs. T.J. Banjo, 21B Cooper Road, Ikoyi, Lagos.